podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we explore the cutting-edge innovations and critical insights shaping the future of dairy farming. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a groundbreaking topic that could fundamentally change how we think about dairy sustainability and profitability. In this episode, we're examining the hidden carbon costs of modern dairy forage systems and their impact on the industry's ambitious net zero emissions goals. We'll uncover why traditional corn silage-heavy rotations might be working against our climate objectives. Explore the surprising role soil carbon plays in your farm's true environmental footprint. And most importantly, discuss practical strategies to transform your forage management for both environmental and economic success. Whether you're managing 50 cows or 5,000, this conversation will challenge conventional thinking and provide actionable insights for building a more resilient and sustainable dairy operation. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, the show that digs deep into the topics that matter to dairy producers.
That's right. Today we're tackling a really interesting feature article from the Bullvine that's got everyone talking. We're going to break it all down.
All right, let's dive right in. Today our deep dive is into something that's been quite literally under our feet all along, yet its critical role in dairy's net zero journey has been, well, surprisingly overlooked: soil management. For a long time, when we talk about dairy and climate, the conversation naturally gravitates towards methane emissions from the cows themselves, or, maybe the electricity powering the milking parlor.
Sure, the obvious stuff.
Exactly. But this recent article from the Bullvine really shines a spotlight on soil carbon as a true hidden in plain sight aspect of our sustainability efforts.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest challenges, and perhaps therefore the greatest opportunities, are found right where we least expect them. This deep dive promises to transform what many might see as just another climate hurdle into a genuine opportunity for both environmental good and profound economic sustainability right there on your farm.
Right.
We're going to explore why soil carbon is so absolutely vital, what specific challenges it presents in modern dairy systems, and crucially, what practical, actionable pathways exist for you, our listeners, the dairy farmers, to tackle this head-on.
And it's a conversation that couldn't be more timely. The dairy industry, to its credit, has truly made remarkable strides in sustainability over the last 5 decades. We've seen a staggering 42% reduction in greenhouse gas intensity per unit of milk produced. That's huge.
Really impressive numbers.
Yeah. And think about the incredible gains in productivity. Average milk output per cow has soared from around, 9,700 pounds back in the 1970s to over 23,000 pounds today. Those are genuinely impressive numbers, certainly something to be proud of, and they highlight a tremendous commitment to efficiency. But the article immediately hits us with a challenging, almost provocative perspective. Are these efficiency gains, as impressive and necessary as they are, inadvertently coming at the expense of our soil's precious carbon bank account?
That's a tough question.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? Dr. Matthew Ruark, a professor of soil science at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, really drives this point home with a quote that's become a cornerstone of this discussion. The carbon balance on your farm is like your herd's reproductive efficiency. You can't manage what you don't measure.
Makes sense.
And he warns us that when we properly include soil carbon losses in our overall calculations, the carbon footprint of milk can nearly double.
Double? Really?
Nearly double. Think about that for a moment. It's a massive shift in perspective,
Yeah.
A fundamental reevaluation of what we thought we knew. And it perfectly sets the stage for why this deep dive isn't just academic theory. It's about your farm's bottom line, the industry's unwavering commitment to net zero emissions, and ensuring we're truly accounting for every piece of the puzzle.
That's a powerful and frankly, a bit unsettling opening thought.
Yeah.
If our hard-won efficiency gains are unknowingly costing us our soil's precious carbon, then we absolutely need to know that, and quickly.
Right.
This brings us right into our first major talking point from the article, the hidden carbon cost of modern forage systems. This section really delves into what initially seems like, well, a core paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Why are our modern corn silage systems, which have been so incredibly efficient for milk production and have driven so much of that productivity we just celebrated, potentially acting as significant carbon leakers right beneath our feet?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive at first.
Historically, there's no arguing it. Corn silage has truly been the undisputed king of forage for dairy operations across North America and beyond. It consistently delivers high yields, boasts excellent energy content for high-producing cows, and from a practical standpoint, it's relatively easy to harvest and preserve.
Absolutely, a staple.
For decades, these agronomic and nutritional advantages made it the champion in dairy feed, undeniably driving incredible dairy efficiency and profitability. But here's the crucial point the article makes. All of this happened in an era before the full carbon cost to our soils was widely understood, let alone properly accounted for.
We just didn't know.
Exactly. It was a trade-off, a depletion of a natural asset that we simply weren't even aware we were making. So that explains the why. From a historical and practical standpoint, it made perfect sense at the time. But what's actually happening on a mechanical level, within the soil itself, that causes these seemingly efficient systems to become carbon leakers.
That's a great setup because it really highlights the fundamental imbalance at play, an imbalance that can have long-term consequences. The article describes soil carbon depletion in a really vivid way as a hidden withdrawal from your farm's long-term asset account.
Okay.
Think of it like constantly skipping routine maintenance on your milking equipment year after year. You might get by for a while, and production might even seem fine, but eventually the bill comes due, and it's often a much larger, more disruptive bill than if you just kept up with the regular upkeep.
Right, that makes sense.
Here's the catch, the one that often gets overlooked in discussions purely focused on forage yield and nutrition. When corn is harvested for silage, the vast majority of the plant's above-ground biomass, essentially the entire plant minus the roots, is removed from the field.
Okay, so you take almost everything.
Pretty much. This leaves minimal crop residue to return to the soil. So what happens is you're extracting a huge amount of carbon through the harvest carbon that was captured from the atmosphere and built into the plant. But you're depositing very little back into the soil through those minimal residues and roots. The system is inherently extractive in terms of carbon.
You're taking more out than you're putting back.
Precisely. Dr. Mary Beth Hall, a highly respected dairy nutritionist quoted in the article, uses a fantastic, incredibly clear analogy to explain this. Think of soil carbon like your farm's bank account. When you remove more carbon through harvest than you deposit through residues and roots, you're making withdrawals from an account with a limited balance. Eventually, the soil carbon account becomes depleted.
That's a really clear picture, a bank account.
It's a very tangible way to conceptualize what's happening beneath your fields. And this isn't just theoretical, it's backed by robust science. Studies using direct measurement techniques across North America and Europe have extensively documented substantial net carbon losses under these intensive corn silage systems. Okay.
With figures ranging from a staggering 13.5 to 25.6 metric tons of coir equivalent per hectare annually.
Wow, that's a huge range, but all big numbers.
Huge numbers.
Yeah.
To give you a more concrete example, researchers in Minnesota monitored an 8-year crop rotation that included 5 years of intensive silage corn, followed by 3 years of alfalfa. Over the entire rotation, they found average annual net carbon losses of 13.9 metric tons of coiro equivalent per hectare.
Okay.
With the most significant losses, a jaw-dropping 17.9 metric tons of coiro equivalent per hectare occurring specifically during those intensive corn years.
So the corn years were really driving the loss.
Exactly. And here's the truly troubling part, the piece that the article really drives home. You will likely never see these losses explicitly listed on your farm's current climate impact statement or factored into your milk's carbon footprint.
It's invisible in the current accounting.
It's a hidden cost, yeah. That is troubling, because if we're not seeing it, we're certainly not managing it, just as Dr. Ruark emphasized. So let's talk about that accounting gap that changes everything, as the article titles it. It's truly eye-opening, almost a paradigm shift in how we understand our environmental footprint.
Definitely.
If these substantial soil carbon losses aren't included in the reported carbon footprint in milk, it fundamentally alters the entire picture, doesn't it? It means we've been operating with, incomplete data.
It absolutely changes everything, and profoundly so. When researchers at the University of Wisconsin took the critical step to include these previously uncounted soil carbon losses in their accounting for a representative 5,000-cow dairy operation in the Midwest, the results were nothing short of astounding.
Okay, what did they find?
The total greenhouse gas footprint of milk didn't just inch up a little, it increased by a massive 60% to 93%.
60 to 93%.
Yeah, that's the difference between what we thought was a standard 0.75 to 1.16 kilograms of co-euros equivalent per kilogram of fat and protein corrected milk, or FPCM, jumping to an alarming 1.45 to 1.86 kilograms of co-euro equivalent per kilogram FPCM. Think about that for a moment, listeners. We've been celebrating these amazing efficiency gains, and they are real, but if we're potentially missing almost double our actual carbon footprint,
Wow.
it's not just an academic number. It fundamentally shifts how the industry needs to approach its net zero goals and how we communicate our environmental impact. It's like finding out your herd's feed conversion ratio was wildly off because you weren't fully accounting for hidden feed waste or maybe the energy spent on environmental controls.
Right, a critical piece of the puzzle we've been missing.
Exactly.
So this isn't just an academic exercise in accounting. It has real-world implications for the long-term health and sustainability of our farms. Dr. Randy Jackson, a renowned grassland ecologist, also at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, perfectly captures the gravity of this situation.
Yeah.
These carbon losses represent the mining of a finite resource, soil organic matter that took centuries to accumulate.
Mining a finite resource. That's a powerful language.
That phrase, mining of a finite resource, really hits home. It's like pushing your cows too hard on lactation performance, isn't it? You might get impressive short-term milk yields hitting those peak numbers, but at what potential cost to their long-term health, their reproductive cycle, and their future productivity? You're drawing down their inherent reserves.
Exactly. We're essentially drawing down a non-renewable resource, the accumulated organic matter in our soils that took centuries to build up through natural processes. When we lose soil carbon, we're not just losing a number on a spreadsheet, we're losing long-term productivity, water holding capacity, nutrient cycling efficiency, and overall resilience of that land.
It's the foundation.
It is. It's a critical point because it implies that the carbon efficiency gains in milk production that the industry has rightly celebrated, while real in terms of per unit output from the cow, may have come partly at the expense of our underlying soil carbon stocks.
So a trade-off we didn't realize we were making.
Right. Instead of our soils acting as carbon sinks, which is what we want them to be, helping to offset other emissions from the farm, many current dairy forage systems are inadvertently creating a carbon liability. This makes the challenge of reaching net zero emissions, which is a significant commitment for the industry, even harder than it appears on paper. It forces us to ask, are we just shifting the problem from one part of the farm to another, or maybe from today to tomorrow?
It truly puts a different and perhaps more holistic spin on things. For you, the listener, this isn't just about abstract carbon numbers or scientific studies. It impacts the dairy industry's credibility, its reputation with consumers, and its ability to achieve those crucial long-term sustainability goals it has committed to.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
If we're unknowingly depleting our soil's carbon, we need to address that honestly, transparently, and proactively. And that, thankfully, leads us to our next major talking point from the article, which offers some much-needed solutions and a path forward. Rethinking forage systems for climate-smart dairy, and specifically, the power of perennials.
Okay, good. Solutions.
So if modern corn siler systems are creating this carbon deficit, this vital accounting gap, it naturally begs the question, are we overlooking our most powerful natural climate tool by not prioritizing perennials in our rotations?
It's a fair question.
The article really positions perennials as a leading, perhaps even foundational solution here. What is it about them? What's the underlying mechanism at play that makes them so effective for carbon sequestration compared to annual crops like corn?
That's the million-dollar question, and the answer is actually quite elegant in its simplicity, really rooted in how these plants interact with the soil year-round. Perennial systems offer some fundamental advantages for carbon sequestration that annual crops simply can't match, primarily because they're not disturbed as frequently.
Okay.
First, they provide continuous living cover on the land, protecting the soil from erosion by wind and water, regulating soil temperature, and mitigating extremes year-round. This constant cover means active roots are present in the soil for much longer periods.
Right. Always covered.
Second, they develop incredibly extensive and often deep root systems. These roots are constantly growing, shedding cells, and interacting with soil microbes, depositing organic carbon much deeper into the soil profile. This deeper carbon is often more stable and less prone to decomposition than surface carbon.
Deeper is better, more stable?
Generally, yes. Third, because they aren't replanted every single year, there's minimal soil disturbance from tillage. This helps to preserve the existing soil structure and, crucially, the carbon already stored within it. Every time you till, you introduce oxygen, which accelerates the breakdown of organic matter and the release of CO2.
Less disturbance, less carbon loss.
Exactly. And finally, their year-round or near year-round photosynthesis means they are capturing more atmospheric carbon for a longer period of time compared to annual crops that only grow for part of the year and then leave the ground bare.
Makes sense. More time working, basically.
You got it. Dr. Sarah Gosley, a research ecologist with the USDA Agricultural Research Service, articulates this beautifully in the article. There's a stark contrast between what happens under perennial systems versus annual crops like corn silage. She particularly emphasizes that perennial pastures, especially when managed with practices like rotational grazing, have shown significantly greater accumulation of stable forms of soil carbon, specifically something called mineral-associated organic matter, or MAOMC.
MAOMC, okay. What's that?
Think of MAOMC as carbon that's literally glued to the soil particles, making it incredibly resistant to breakdown and loss, locking it away for centuries.
So like super stable carbon storage.
Precisely. This MAOMC is a much more stable long-term carbon pool than what you typically find in annual systems, even those using conservation practices like no-till or cover crops, because those annual systems still involve periods of disturbance and bare ground.
That's a powerful distinction, not just adding carbon, but adding the stable kind. And the article is very clear. This isn't about eliminating corn silage entirely, which for many operations would be a massive, perhaps impractical shift.
No, definitely not.
It's about reimagining rotations, finding a new balance. So what are some of those concrete options for farmers who are looking to strategically increase their perennial footprint without necessarily tearing up their entire established system?
Exactly. It's about balance and strategic integration, not necessarily throwing out the baby with the bathwater. The article suggests several very practical options that can be implemented incrementally. You could incorporate or extend the phase of grass legume hay mixtures within your existing rotation.
Right, like alfalfa grass mixes.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about species like orchard grass, tall fescue, or timothy paired with nitrogen-fixing legumes such as alfalfa or various clovers. These provide excellent forage quality while building soil carbon. Multi-species pastures are another excellent option, particularly for operations that already incorporate grazing or are looking to expand into it. These diverse pastures are incredibly resilient and effective carbon builders.
More diversity, more resilience.
Absolutely. And looking to the future, there are exciting emerging dual-purpose crops, such as Kernza intermediate wheatgrass, that can provide both high-quality forage and a grain harvest, offering a multifaceted approach to perennial integration.
Interesting. Kernza.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of attention. The bottom line for farmers here is that by extending your perennial forage phases, you can potentially reduce your annual seed, fuel, and equipment costs associated with yearly planting and harvest, all while systematically building soil fertility and carbon.
So potential cost savings too.
Definitely. The article even references research from the University of Turin, which shows that dairy farms incorporating a higher percentage of perennials, specifically more permanent impacts per kilogram of milk produced. Essentially, they were making more milk with a smaller environmental footprint on less cultivated land. It truly suggests a win-win scenario: environmental benefit and improved efficiency.
That makes so much sense, connecting it back to both the environmental impact and the bottom line. But what about the winter months, especially in temperate regions? You mentioned that soil microbial activity continues, breaking down organic matter, but photosynthesis largely stops. Isn't that a period of net carbon loss for the soil?
Yeah, that's a critical point.
How do we proactively fill that winter gap and prevent those carbon leaks?
You've hit on another critical challenge and, importantly, a substantial opportunity for carbon capture. You're absolutely right. In many temperate regions, winter is typically a period of net carbon loss. Microbial activity in the soil continues to decompose organic matter that was accumulated during the growing season.
Right.
But without actively growing plants, photosynthesizing, and adding new carbon inputs through roots and residues, There's no new carbon being deposited. So the question becomes, why allow our fields to essentially leak carbon for months when we could be actively capturing it and improving soil health?
Good question.
And that's precisely where winter annual crops, often referred to as cover crops, come in. They offer a strategic and highly effective opportunity to reverse these winter carbon losses while also diversifying your forage supply and offering other co-benefits.
Okay, cover crops. So what kinds of crops are we talking about here for winter covers, and what are their specific benefits during those traditionally dormant months? What should a farmer consider when selecting them?
Good questions. We're talking about hardy options like winter rye, which is very common due to its cold tolerance and ability to scavenge nitrogen. Other options include winter barley, field pennycress, or winter camelina. The key benefit is that they can capture atmospheric carbon through photosynthesis during periods when your fields would otherwise be bare and inactive. They serve multiple purposes. They actively grow and build soil organic matter, acting as a living root system throughout the colder months.
Keeping the soil biology active.
Exactly. They also provide crucial protection for the soil from erosion caused by winter winds and rain, preventing valuable topsoil from washing away. Furthermore, they can scavenge leftover nutrients like nitrogen that might otherwise leach away over the winter, keeping them in the root zone for the next cash crop.
Holding on to nutrients. That's valuable.
Very. And as an added bonus, some of these can even provide additional forage or grain revenue streams in the spring. Dr. Mary Beth Hall uses another great analogy for these winter covers in the article. They're like hiring a workforce that works for free during the off-season.
I like that.
She points out that they're actively photosynthesizing, diligently building soil organic matter, and, as a bonus, can provide valuable supplemental feed or cash crop revenue before your main forage crop goes in. Research in the Midwest, for example, has clearly shown that integrating these winter annual crops into corn silage systems can substantially reduce the carbon deficit caused by corn production.
Okay, so they really help balance the books, carbon-wise.
They do. Crucially, they can also provide additional forage or grain, making them an economically viable choice. It's a lot like how strategic dry cow management, while not directly contributing to immediate milk, can significantly improve transition cow performance and prevent costly metabolic disorders later on without necessarily adding excessive costs.
Right. It's a proactive, preventative, and ultimately profitable approach.
Exactly.
So it's increasingly clear that this isn't just about what you grow, but absolutely how you grow it. The article really emphasizes that management makes the difference beyond just the specific species of forage. It suggests that even within existing systems, strategic management can dramatically enhance soil carbon. What are some of those other key management practices that play a vital role in enhancing soil carbon and overall soil health?
Absolutely. The how is just as crucial, if not more so, than the what when it comes to building soil carbon. Let's break down some of these key management practices. First, conservation tillage.
Okay, reducing tillage.
Right. This involves significantly reducing soil disturbance through practices like no-till, where you plant directly into previous crop residues without plowing, or strip-till, where you only disturb a narrow strip of soil for planting. The goal is to preserve existing soil structure and, importantly, existing carbon stocks.
Keep the carbon locked in.
Yep. When you don't continually invert and aggressively disturb the soil, you prevent the rapid oxidation of organic matter, which would otherwise release CO2 into the atmosphere. The article aptly compares this to minimizing stress during cow transitions. Less disturbance, better long-term outcome for both the animal and the soil. Studies consistently show this can be particularly beneficial when you're transitioning from one forage crop to another, minimizing the carbon bleed during that period.
Makes sense. Second,
cover cropping in general, beyond just winter annuals. Implementing cover crops between your main cash or forage harvests adds significant biomass back into the soil, both above and below ground, and provides crucial protection for the surface from erosion.
More biomass, more protection.
Exactly. Different types of cover crops offer complementary benefits. Non-legumes like cereals, oats, wheat, or brassicas like radishes are excellent at scavenging leftover nutrients and producing a lot of biomass. Legumes, such as clovers or vetches, have the added benefit of fixing atmospheric nitrogen, reducing your need for synthetic fertilizers, and they often create more stable forms of soil carbon.
Nitrogen fixation, that's a big plus.
Huge. And then mixes of different cover crop types provide multiple benefits simultaneously, much like a properly balanced TMR delivers a complete array of nutrients for your herd's optimal performance. A diverse cover crop mix builds a more diverse and resilient soil ecosystem.
That's a good analogy. A diverse cover crop mix for the soil is like a perfectly balanced ration for the cow, creating a thriving environment. What about grazing management and manure? Those are huge parts of dairy farming and have massive implications for soil health.
Indeed. Third, strategic grazing. For operations that utilize pasture, well-managed rotational grazing is incredibly key to carbon sequestration. It promotes uniform nutrient distribution across the pasture by having animals graze a smaller area intensely for a short period, then moving them, allowing for essential rest and regrowth periods for the plant.
Rest is key for the plants.
Absolutely. This rest allows plants to put more energy into root development, which in turn enhances overall plant health and carbon deposition. Over time, it can even improve the species composition of your pastures, leading to greater biodiversity and carbon uptake. This precision approach to grazing really mirrors the principles of precision dairy nutrition, where strategic management of feed inputs leads to improved feed efficiency and overall animal health. You're optimizing the system.
Optimizing the pasture system, gotcha.
And manure.
And fourth, manure management. Applying dairy manure back to your fields is a vital way to return photosynthetic carbon captured by the plants the cows ate back to the soil, effectively closing your farm's carbon loop.
Right, closing the loop.
Right. However, how that manure is handled before application makes a significant difference in its carbon contribution and its ability to build stable soil organic matter. Recent research published in the Journal of Dairy Science highlighted this, showing that anaerobic digestion significantly reduces slurry dry matter by 55% compared to raw manure, from 76 grams per kilogram down to 34 grams per kilogram. Wow, a big reduction.
It is. This reduction in dry matter directly impacts the amount of stable carbon available for soil building. While anaerobic digestion is fantastic for capturing methane emissions and producing renewable energy,
Which is important too.
absolutely important, but it effectively breaks down some of the complex organic material that would otherwise become long-term soil carbon. So in terms of soil carbon sequestration and building organic matter, typically raw slurry or solid manure delivers more of that beneficial stable carbon than heavily digested or separated slurry. That's an important nuance to consider when setting your specific farm goals for carbon.
So there's a trade-off there between methane capture and carbon building in the soil itself. Interesting.
There can be. As Dr. Jessica Gutneck from the University of Wisconsin aptly puts it, the carbon balance of a dairy farm is fundamentally about how much carbon you're putting into the soil versus how much is being removed or lost.
Right.
Every management decision, whether it's your feeding program or your cropping system, tips that balance one way or another, much like how subtle tweaks in your feeding program affect your milk components and bulk tank averages.
It's all interconnected.
Totally. Every management decision you make has ripple effects on that delicate carbon balance within your farm ecosystem.
It's clear that this isn't just about abstract environmental benefits, but fundamentally about holistic farm management and long-term profitability and resilience. So let's transition from the theory and the why of these practices to the practical application for you, the listener.
Okay.
Moving into our third major discussion point, practical pathways, co-benefits, and the economics. For a farmer considering these significant yet essential changes to their forage systems, where did they even begin? What are the concrete strategic steps to tailor this carbon-smart approach to their specific farm conditions, their soil types, their climate?
That's where the rubber truly meets the road, isn't it? Transitioning your forage system to enhance soil carbon certainly requires a strategic, often phased approach. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution, but the article lays out some very clear, practical steps that can be adapted to almost any dairy operation.
Good. What's step one?
First, you need to assess your current carbon balance. You can't manage what you don't measure, right? So you need to understand your starting point. When was the last time you measured soil organic matter levels across your various fields?
Good question.
Ask yourself, what proportion of your total farmland is currently dedicated to annual crops versus perennial forages? What are the typical lengths of your current crop rotations? What's your usual tillage intensity? How much crop residue is left after harvest in your annual fields? And what type and quantity of manure are you currently returning to your fields and how?
Getting a real baseline picture.
Exactly. This comprehensive assessment gives you a crucial baseline, much like evaluating your herd's current production metrics, genetics, and health status, before you implement any major breeding or management changes. It helps you accurately identify your biggest opportunities for carbon improvement and where to focus your initial efforts.
Okay, assess first, then what?
Second, Extend rotations with perennials. This is often one of the most impactful changes. Look for concrete opportunities to lengthen the perennial phase of your rotation. Instead of, say, 1 or 2 years of alfalfa followed by 3 or 4 years of intensive corn silage.
Right.
Consider extending that perennial phase to 3 or 4 years of alfalfa or mixed hay, then perhaps 2 or 3 years of corn before returning to perennials.
Shifting the balance in the rotation.
Yeah. You could also evaluate marginal cropland on your operation areas that are consistently less productive or challenging to farm profitably. It might actually be far more profitable and environmentally sound to convert those areas to permanent pasture or dedicated perennial hay fields.
Rethinking those less productive spots.
Absolutely. And don't forget to consider dedicating maybe 10-15% of your land to strategic perennial plantings, especially in areas prone to erosion, steep slopes, or those that are naturally less productive. The Turin study we mentioned earlier specifically showed that dairy farms with a higher percentage of permanent grasslands actually had better land occupation efficiency per kilogram of milk.
Right.
Meaning they produced more milk with a smaller land footprint by leveraging those perennial benefits.
So it's about strategically shifting that balance in the rotation and even finding new, more productive uses for land that might not be pulling its weight right now. That seems like a logical first step for many.
It often is.
What about those crucial winter covers and optimized manure management? How do we integrate those strategically for maximum carbon benefit?
Absolutely. Third, implement winter covers strategically. You want to target your investments in winter cover crops where they'll provide the greatest return and fit best into your existing workflow. Fields with an early corn silage harvest, for example, offer an ideal wider window for getting those winter covers established properly, ensuring good growth before winter dormancy.
Target the early harvest fields. Good tip.
Yeah. Choose cover crop species based on your specific goals, whether it's primarily soil building and carbon sequestration, providing additional forage in the spring, or nitrogen fixation to reduce fertilizer needs. You can even consider innovative techniques like interseeding cover crops into standing corn,
Oh, interesting.
giving them a head start on establishment and allowing for greater growth before the corn is harvested.
Getting creative with timing.
Exactly. Fourth, optimize your manure strategy. Manure is essentially recycled carbon, and it's a fantastic resource right there on your farm to help close your carbon loop and build soil health.
Use what you've got.
Right. Think about exploring options like solid-liquid separation to strategically direct carbon-rich solid manure to those fields that have the greatest carbon deficit or need the most organic matter. Time your applications to maximize nutrient use efficiency by the crops and minimize losses through leaching or volatilization.
Timing is everything.
And importantly, pair your manure applications with cover crops that can actively capture and utilize those nutrients as soon as they are applied, preventing losses and incorporating that carbon more effectively into the soil. Penn State University research, for instance, has compellingly shown how strategic applications of manure combined with active cover crops significantly enhance soil carbon levels and improve nutrient retention,
Nice.
which really mitigates potential environmental impacts and saves on synthetic fertilizer costs.
So it's about making every application count and having a living plant there to immediately take advantage of those nutrients and lock in that carbon. What else is on the list for practical pathways to consider for building soil carbon?
Fifth, reduce tillage intensity. While going completely no-till might not be practical or desirable in every single forage system, simply reducing tillage intensity can significantly help preserve existing soil carbon and build new organic matter.
Every little bit helps.
It does. Consider adopting strip till for corn planting, particularly after perennials, which minimizes disturbance to the rest of the field while still preparing a seedbed. Strive to minimize the number of tillage passes whenever establishment is absolutely necessary. And always use no-till drills for cover crop establishment whenever possible, allowing them to be planted directly into residues with minimal soil disturbance.
Smart use of equipment.
And sixth, and this is truly foundational, focus on soil health monitoring. Regular, consistent soil testing with a particular emphasis on tracking soil organic matter, SOM levels, is crucial for tracking your progress over time.
Keep score, basically.
Yeah. Establish baseline measurements of soil organic matter at consistent depths across your fields, and then monitor those levels annually or biennially. You might even consider more advanced soil health tests that measure active carbon fractions, which can give you an earlier indication of changes in soil health.
Active carbon. All right.
And don't underestimate the power of simple photo documentation. Take pictures of your soil structure, residue cover, and plant health throughout the season to visually track changes over time. It provides a powerful, tangible record.
See the difference yourself.
Exactly. The bottom line for you here, the farmer, the immediate tangible benefit, get this, every 1% increase in soil organic matter can hold approximately 20,000 more gallons of water per acre.
20,000 gallons per acre.
Let that sink in. That's a huge, almost unbelievable increase in your soil's water holding capacity. This translates directly to tangible benefits like reduced irrigation costs during dry periods and significantly improved drought resilience for your crops. That right there is money in the bank during dry years, like having an insurance policy built right into your fields.
That's a massive co-benefit right there.
Huge. Dr. Randy Jackson offers excellent advice on embarking on this journey. Making these transitions doesn't have to happen all at once. Start with pilot areas, perhaps just a few fields or a specific rotation. Learn what works best on your particular farm, adapt those practices based on your observations, and then expand gradually.
Start small, learn, adapt, scale.
That's the idea. He emphasizes that some of the biggest gains can come from relatively small changes applied consistently over time, similar to how small, consistent tweaks in your transition cow program can lead to significant long-term improvements in lactation performance and herd health. It's about consistent, smart choices, building momentum.
That's incredibly reassuring, that it's a journey, not a sprint, and that incremental changes can yield big results. And speaking of results, the article really highlights that while reducing greenhouse gas emissions is a critically important, noble goal, the benefits of actively enhancing soil carbon extend far beyond just climate mitigation. These co-benefits are often immediate, tangible, and directly impactful on the farm's daily operations and long-term viability. Let's really dig into them. What are some of these powerful additional upsides for a dairy farmer?
This is where it gets really interesting, Sarah, because the benefits aren't just for the planet or for future regulations. They're directly for your bottom line and the day-to-day resilience of your farm. They're what make these practices truly attractive.
Okay, lay them out.
First, and perhaps most impactful for many operations, is improved drought resilience. Soil organic matter acts like a massive natural sponge. The article powerfully states that for every 1% increase in soil organic matter, soils can hold approximately 20,000 more gallons of water per acre.
That number is just incredible.
It really is. This dramatically increases your soil's water holding capacity and its ability to buffer plants against dry spells. During the devastating 2012 drought, for instance, Dr. Christine Jones, a renowned soil ecologist, observed dramatic differences in forage production between farms with high and low soil organic matter.
Really?
Yeah. She noted that the farms that had consciously built their soil carbon had a visible buffer against the drought stress that utterly devastated other operations.
Wow.
Much like how a properly conditioned cow handles the stress of calving and peak lactation far better than one that enters the dry period too thin or too fat. It's essentially natural, built-in irrigation, an emergency water reservoir right there in your fields at no extra cost for infrastructure.
20,000 gallons per acre per 1% of organic matter. That's truly incredible. It's like having that emergency water reservoir built right into your fields, as you said, at no extra cost for infrastructure. So a tangible benefit that can save you money and headaches during unpredictable weather. What else does the article highlight as a co-benefit?
Second, we see enhanced nutrient cycling and efficiency. Carbon-rich soils are bustling with more diverse and active microbial communities. These microbes are the unsung heroes of your farm. They're absolutely essential for cycling nutrients more efficiently, making them more available to your crops and reducing losses.
Healthier soil life.
Exactly. This can directly reduce your synthetic fertilizer requirements and their associated costs, which is a major input for any dairy operation. It also improves water quality by reducing nutrient runoff and leaching into groundwater or surface waters.
Saving money on fertilizer, protecting water, win-win.
Big time. Studies in the Northeast have actually shown that dairy farms implementing perennial-based rotations with cover crops have seen their nitrogen fertilizer needs drop by a significant 30-50%, all while maintaining or even improving their yields.
30 to 50% reduction. That's huge.
It is. This directly enhances farm profitability and reduces environmental impact simultaneously. Much like strategic feeding of bypass proteins can reduce your total protein requirements while still maintaining optimal milk production and feed efficiency, it's about getting more out of what you put in and often needing to put less in overall.
And less going where it shouldn't be, like into our valuable waterways, which is a huge win for everyone.
Exactly. Third, reduced erosion and improved water quality. The improvements in soil structure that naturally come with higher soil organic matter dramatically reduce the potential for soil erosion, whether from intense rainfall or strong winds.
Keeping that topsoil in place.
Absolutely. This means your valuable topsoil, along with the nutrients it contains, stays where it belongs. In your fields, where it can support your crops, instead of washing away into ditches, streams, and rivers. And by keeping the soil and its associated nutrients in place, you're also directly preventing sediment and nutrient pollution from impacting our waterways. Dr. Matt Ruark, whom we heard from earlier, summarizes this perfectly. Soil health and water quality are two sides of the same coin.
Nice summary.
The very practices that build soil carbon are inherently the ones that protect and improve water resources, leading to clearer streams and healthier aquatic ecosystems for everyone downstream.
Good for the farm, good for the community.
Right. And fourth, greater farm resilience. Diversifying your forage systems and building soil health creates a natural biological insurance policy against a whole host of risks that dairy farmers face daily. Extreme weather events, unforeseen disease, and pest pressures on single crops, and even market volatility.
Building in a buffer against shocks.
Precisely. If one crop struggles due to drought or disease, others in a diverse system may thrive under the same conditions, providing a crucial buffer against total crop failure. Dairy farmer Ron Holter from Jefferson, Maryland, who famously transitioned to a perennial pasture-based system, articulates this beautifully. Resilience is about having options.
Options are good.
He adds, when you're working with a diverse carbon building system, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, just like you wouldn't want a herd susceptible to the same genetic weaknesses or all at the same stage of lactation, vulnerable to a single challenge. It's about spreading your risk, building robustness into your entire operation, and creating a more stable, adaptive farming system that can weather the inevitable challenges.
Those co-benefits are certainly compelling, perhaps even more immediately tangible and financially motivating for many farmers than just abstract carbon numbers or future climate targets. But of course, the ultimate question for any dairy farmer considering significant changes to their forage systems, changes that require investment time and a learning curve, is always, does carbon-smart farming actually pay?
Yeah, the bottom line question.
What does the article say about the economics of these shifts, especially in the short and long term?
This is the absolute crucial question, isn't it? It's where the rubber meets the road for farm managers. And the article doesn't shy away from dissecting the economics by looking at both the potential initial costs and the significant potential benefits and returns.
Okay, let's hear it.
On the cost side, it's important to acknowledge there can be initial investments. You might need equipment modifications or new purchases, like specialized no-till drills or roller crimpers for cover crops. There's definitely a learning curve associated with adopting new practices and adapting them to your specific farm and climate, which requires time and commitment.
Sure, change takes effort.
You might even see some short-term yield adjustments during the transition periods as the soil biology adapts and rebuilds, although often these are quickly offset. There can also be additional management complexity initially and potentially higher seed costs for cover crops or diverse perennial forage mixes compared to conventional monocultures.
Okay, so there are hurdles. What about the benefits?
But then you have the potential benefits and returns, which are quite significant and often compound over time. These include genuinely reduced fuel, labor, and machinery maintenance costs from less tillage and fewer passes across the field.
Big savings there, potentially.
Significantly lower fertilizer requirements due to improved nutrient cycling and nitrogen fixation by legumes, as we just discussed. Reduced irrigation needs from that vastly improved water retention in the soil. More stable and often higher yields, especially under weather extremes, thanks to that increased resilience of the soil.
Stability is valuable.
Very.
Yeah.
And looking slightly down the line, potential premium markets for low-carbon dairy products as consumer demand for sustainability grows. And, of course, the exciting, though still developing, potential for carbon credit revenue.
Carbon credit revenue, that's a relatively new and incredibly exciting opportunity for agriculture, particularly dairy. Good. How significant is that market for dairy farmers right now, and what does a farm need to do to participate?
It's an emerging market, absolutely, but it's gaining significant momentum and structure. Carbon credits from agricultural soil projects are currently ranging in various markets from around $15 to $45 per metric ton of co-euro equivalent.
$15 to $45 a ton.
Okay.
To participate and generate these credits, projects typically require verified changes in management practices and then measured or credibly modeled carbon gains in the soil. These credits can stem from direct soil carbon increases, but also from other GHG reductions on the farm, such as methane reductions achieved through manure digestion or a combination of both.
Do you need proof? Verification. Yes. Dr. Debbie Reed, Executive Director of the Ecosystem Services Market Consortium, or ESMC, a leading player in this space, notes that forward-thinking dairy farms are strategically positioning themselves to benefit.
Okay.
She explains that the farms with good baseline data, documented practice changes, and a commitment to long-term soil health will be best positioned to participate and capitalize as these markets develop and mature.
Get ready now.
Similar to how farms that were early adopters of robotic milking or precision feeding technology often gained significant market advantages and efficiencies. It's about being ahead of the curve, establishing those baselines, and proving out the practices now.
That analogy of early adopters is a good one. It suggests that while the market is still maturing, being an early mover could offer a competitive edge and unlock future revenue streams. And the article gives some real-world economic case studies, which really help bring this concept of carbon-smart farming paying off to life.
Yeah, those are really powerful.
What if farms that have actually made these transitions experience in terms of their bottom line?
The real-world examples provided in the article are truly compelling and demonstrate the tangible economic benefits. Let's look at a few. First, Rutland Farm in Pennsylvania is a fantastic example of a dramatic, successful transition.
Okay.
They moved from a corn silage-based confinement operation to a managed grazing system utilizing diverse perennial pastures. While their milk production per cow did decrease slightly, wait for it, the overall farm profitability soared because they completely eliminated silage production costs, significantly reduced their grain purchases by a remarkable 30%, and observed substantial improvements in herd health, reducing veterinary bills and improving longevity. The net result: documented profitability gains of an astonishing $800 per cow annually.
$800 per cow, that's huge from changing the forage system.
That's a huge, undeniable economic win stemming from a fundamental shift in their forage system. Then there's Grazeway Dairy in Wisconsin. They implemented a partial system where about 40% of their forage comes from perennial pasture and 60% from harvested feed.
Mixed approach.
Right. They've documented a significant 35% reduction in machinery and fuel costs, a major expense for any farm, all while maintaining comparable milk production to their previous system.
Cutting costs, same milk, good deal.
And perhaps even more impressively, over a 12-year period, their soil organic matter on their pastures increased from a baseline of 3.2% to an impressive 5.7%.
Building that soil asset.
That's a measurable, long-term asset building up in the soil, improving its productive capacity and resilience for generations. And Blue Spruce Farm in Vermont took a different, more incremental approach, proving you don't have to overhaul everything at once.
Okay, the incremental approach.
They maintained their corn silage system, but strategically added winter cover crops, reduced tillage intensity, and incorporated manure injection. Well, they spent approximately $30 more per acre on seeds and management for these practices.
Okay, a bit more cost up front.
They saw an immediate return. They reduced their synthetic fertilizer costs by $45 per acre and documented yield increases in their subsequent corn crops worth an additional $65–90 per acre.
So a net positive return pretty quickly, even without ditching silage.
Exactly. So even without eliminating corn silage, they found significant, immediate financial gains through strategic carbon building practices. As fifth-generation dairy farmer John Gilbert succinctly puts it in the article, there's a cost to changing, yes, but there's also a much larger cost to not changing.
Interesting perspective.
He expands on this, saying, when I look at what we're spending on synthetic fertilizer, fuel, and equipment repairs in our conventional system versus what we're seeing in our transition fields using these carbon building practices, the numbers increasingly favor the carbon building approach.
Looking at the whole picture.
Yeah. He says, it's like comparing the economics of preventing a metabolic disease in your herd versus waiting to treat it once it's already caused damage and lost production. It's about looking at the holistic picture of your operation's financial health, not just individual line items in isolation. It's about long-term vision.
So Jake, after all that incredibly detailed and practical discussion, what's the key takeaway, the absolute most important insight for a dairy farmer listening today who's perhaps feeling both the challenge and the opportunity of this topic?
The core message is undeniably clear. Soil carbon management is not just another environmental regulation or a distant sustainability goal. It is simultaneously dairy's biggest climate challenge and, crucially, its greatest on-farm opportunity.
Challenge and opportunity.
Exactly. It offers tangible, measurable benefits for farmers that go far beyond just carbon numbers. We're talking about significantly improved drought resilience, with every 1% increase in soil organic matter holding approximately 20,000 more gallons of water per acre. That's money saved on irrigation and insurance against dry years.
That water number again.
Yeah.
Huge.
We're talking about genuinely reduced input costs, like less fuel consumption from fewer passes and less reliance on expensive synthetic fertilizers, leading directly to a stronger, more stable bottom line. And perhaps most importantly, it builds overall farm resilience, making your entire operation more robust and adaptable in the face of increasingly unpredictable weather patterns and volatile market fluctuation.
Resilience is key these days.
Absolutely. It's vital to stress that this is a journey, not an overnight, immediate transformation. You do not have to overhaul your entire operation tomorrow. Start small, perhaps with pilot areas on a few fields that you're willing to experiment with.
Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Right. Learn what works best on your specific farm's unique soils and climate conditions, adapt those practices based on your observations, and then scale gradually as you gain confidence and see results. The research consistently shows that small, consistent changes applied over time really do lead to significant compounding gains.
Like interest in a savings account.
Yes, exactly. Much like how small, incremental improvements in herd genetics compound over generations to create a truly superior herd. For you, the listener, we strongly encourage active knowledge building. Attend field days where these carbon-friendly practices are being demonstrated by other farmers and researchers.
Learn from peers.
Connect with your local extension office or Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, for soil health programs and invaluable technical assistance. Join farmer networks focused on regenerative agriculture and soil health. Peer-to-peer learning from those who are already on this path is often the most valuable resource.
Tap into the community.
And definitely consider a comprehensive soil health assessment to establish your baseline and accurately track your progress over time. Don't hesitate to seek out incentives available through NRCS, state-level programs, or even from milk processors and carbon market developers who are increasingly offering financial support and technical guidance for these practices.
Look for help and funding.
Taking a whole farm systems approach and involving your nutritionist, crop advisor, and other trusted team members in the planning process will be absolutely key to long-term success. Dr. Jed Colquhoun, Associate Dean for Extension at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, has a powerful prediction that really encapsulates the future. The dairy farms that will truly thrive in the coming decades are the ones thinking holistically about carbon.
Holistically?
Not just how to reduce emissions, but how to actively build and manage carbon in their soils.
That's a clear and inspiring vision for the future of dairy. This deep dive has shown us that by thoughtfully reimagining your forage systems and actively focusing on building soil carbon, you can make meaningful and verifiable progress toward the industry's critical climate goals. But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
You can simultaneously build more resilient, more profitable, and more environmentally sound operations right there on your farm. You'll improve environmental outcomes that go far beyond just carbon, positively impacting water quality, biodiversity, and the health of your local ecosystems.
Right.
You'll position yourself and your farm for emerging ecosystem service markets. And perhaps most importantly, you'll be able to tell a truly compelling, authentic sustainability story to consumers, processors, and the wider community.
That story matters.
It really does. There's no single one-size-fits-all solution, of course, but the journey toward carbon-smart dairy is not only vital for the planet, but increasingly vital for the prosperity and longevity of your farm. The carbon that literally sustains us, that forms the building blocks of life, ultimately comes from the soil. By managing that carbon more thoughtfully, more intentionally, you can lead agricultural climate solutions or building operations that will thrive and produce for generations to come. What will your farm's carbon legacy be?
Great points. And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. For more articles and insights, be sure to visit www.thebullvine.com.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us on the Bullvine Podcast. Today's discussion on soil carbon and dairy forage management reveals just how interconnected our farming practices are with both environmental sustainability and long-term profitability. The path to net zero emissions isn't just about meeting industry targets. It's about building farming systems that work better for your bottom line, your soil health, and your farm's future resilience. As we've heard today, the solutions are within reach, but they require us to think differently about how we manage our land and our forages. Remember, every management decision you make today shapes your farm's carbon legacy tomorrow. Keep pushing the boundaries, stay informed about the latest research, and never stop asking the tough questions about how we can do better. Until next time, this is the Bullvine, where progressive thinking meets profitable farming. Keep innovating.